Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, let me pull up the YouTube side. Moving slow today.
I have CO2 once again. It was empty for 10 days. It's back
That
up.
oh my god,
Oh,
that's
10 days. Yeah,
horrible.
that.
That's too long.
With the amount of stems I have, 10 days without CO2, I would have to trim a whole bunch of dead matter out.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem. My tanks can always go a couple weeks
Yeah,
without.
well, you got,
I
yeah.
mean, I could have replaced it last week, but we just forgot. Like I had it refilled, we just forgot. And I can't do it by myself. It's too hard to I don't have the hand strength to. Also, I make Jake do it. It's just his job,
The
Well,
consequences of no CO2 in the plant farm with like the ridiculous amount of light I'm pushing in there would be dire.
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
push a lot of light, but I don't know. These tanks are pretty stable, so it doesn't really seem to make a difference. Beck says my 5 pound was empty. There's a notification on top of that. Now I can't read it. My 5 pound was empty for almost 2 weeks too. Finally refilled it. Yeah, I mean my tanks can go a little bit, not forever. They just kind of don't do anything. They're just slow.
Yeah,
So
in my nano
still the
tanks I
point
have
is
pretty
good,
low
but
and slow in there anyway. But
yeah.
yeah, the one that I would not want to run out for any length of time would be the plant farm.
Yep.
Mm.
So much light.
I mean, after 2 weeks, they start looking kind of bad, but
Yeah, that's
they bounce back fast. I noticed that, like
Claudophora and Blackbeard
the
is what
red,
I.
I don't get
Staghorn too. I get Staghorn if I get fluctuations in CO2.
yeah, the reds just aren't as red. That's what I've noticed. But I don't get algae. These tanks are stable. This tank over here, not stable. It's not there. It's not
I mean,
there.
it's
We got
still
to.
fairly new compared to the others.
Yeah, it is. It takes like I don't know, sometimes a year for a tank to settle in. So
That sounds about right.
especially a smaller tank. Bigger tanks, I think this one settled in, I want to say like 3 months.
And if
Maybe
they
if I
don't
didn't keep
settle in, they're in the process of settling in, but it's such a big tank that you don't see the downsides of anything that happens wrong. So,
Well, also like when it's bad, it's very demoralizing to have four
a
feet.
large tank, yeah.
Mhm.
Very
You end
demoralizing.
up adding
I
bottles and
change
bottles
mine
of
around.
peroxide to fix it.
Oh god! In the first 6 months of owning a tank, I usually change it around so much that it does not start to even begin to establish and become what you call a seasoned tank until about
Mhm.
that 6 month mark. And then if I leave it alone and I don't do anything significant to it, it'll be all right.
I tend to leave things alone. So, I put them
Uh,
in, I get them how I want them, and I let them ride.
nope, I got to keep screwing with it because it's the first. I don't. Not,
You're
I don't
not as
have
bad as you look to
confidence. I
me.
don't have confidence in my initial decisions whenever I do
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, sometimes I'll change out certain plants, but like I don't change the hardscape. This one I made like no changes to. I just added a few things, and I didn't make any major changes to that.
So member milestone chat from Fantastic Freaks member for 11 months. Howdy, Fish Fam.
Awesome.
Hello, are you streaming today? Let us know.
Let's see if we got something. Yep, he is scheduled 5:05.
Fabulous. Everyone go to his stream afterwards.
It's titled "It's Gonna Be May." It's gonna be May.
I love that meme. That's a good
All
meme.
yesterday was just flooding everywhere.
That's fantastic.
Happy May the 1st.
Happy May the 1st. And then there will be
So,
Happy May the 4th. Then there will be Cinco de Mayo. It's just a week of stuff.
who says Happy May the 4th? It is May the 4th. Be
It's
with
May
Oh,
the
you.
4th be with
whatever.
you.
I don't really like Star Wars, so
Okay, well, at least you said the right one.
I mean, I've
Steven, can you
seen
mute Kelly
the
or like
original three that
I
came
can
out.
remove her.
The original three that came out when I was a child are pretty good. I've seen them many times. Then they revised them, they became less good. Then the prequels came out, and I saw the first two, and then after that, I'm like, these movies are horrible. I'm done.
Well,
And
if
I
you
have been done ever since.
the prequels weren't the greatest, so
They
So
weren't the
and then
greatest, but they
and
weren't
then
as bad as.
I went to one of the, I don't know, so that would be like the 7th movie they made. I went to, some date took me to that. It was not what I would call a great date, and it was not what I would call a great movie.
wait,
So
some date to. We're talking about The Force Awakens.
I don't know. It had a chick in it,
Yeah.
and Luke
2015.
Skywalker was
-ish.
in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't that great of a movie. It was not memorable. Much like that date, except that's the date. Okay, wanted to hold hands during the movie. Fine, whatever.
But how much I'm just thinking, like, that much time has passed since The Force Awakens that you were not with Jake at the
It
time?
was right before I met him. Right
Okay.
before I met him. So, and this guy, he wanted to hold hands on the date. Whatever, that's a date activity. It's fine. But then he starts rubbing my fingernails.
Oh, yeah, you love
And I'm
that.
like, no. And then he just goes, ha ha ha. And he grabs my hand and does it again.
Oh,
And I'm like, well, this is
one of those people
this
that
is
thinks
fun.
if you're bothered by something, let's just keep doing it because
I
it's
know,
fun.
and that's just annoying. I mean, if someone clearly says, I don't want to be touched that way, like,
Yeah.
Definitely should not
Yeah.
keep doing it.
anyways, there was no second date. And then, like, a month later, I met Jake.
And Jake stayed away from the fingernails.
He has never intentionally touched my fingernails. No.
Wow.
And I have not seen any Star Wars show or movie since because I just don't care.
God, the shows are so good, though.
I don't have, what is it, Disney Plus? I don't
Mhm.
want. I feel like I pay for enough streaming services. I'm done.
I'm with you there.
I mean, it's like, because we were thinking of watching all of the X-Files because Jake has never seen them and I really like them. And then we realized, if we watch them on Amazon Prime, we have to watch commercials. So now we have to pay for Hulu. It's like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I would
why
rather just buy them.
I use.
That's what they want me to do. I would just buy the series.
I use less than legal, not recommended
You
ways
do
of acquiring.
matey. Do you see it?
You probably
Sales?
have like a hard
I
disk full of films and TV shows somewhere.
I have a
Allegedly.
server. I have a server. A dedicated PC with 8 terabytes. No, I'm sorry, 16 terabytes.
And
know-
how many of the 16 terabytes are being used?
Well, the other 8 is for backup of the initial 8, so I don't lose all
No,
that.
I just am not. I just don't want to bother doing that. I just want to pay for one thing and consume one thing. Like, I just want to buy this damn series, not have to buy a streaming service, and just move on with my life. But I don't want to buy DVDs. I don't have a DVD player. I mean, I don't
Life
like
was so much simpler
much.
when we just had rabbit ears and 4 channels.
That was how I grew up, and it was easy. TV
Remember those
wasn't
days,
great,
Myrtle?
But it's all you had.
Well, I don't remember the days, but I know what you're talking about.
Myrtle does not remember those days.
We didn't get cable in my house until I was like 10 years old.
We didn't get cable until I moved out of the house. And then my dad was like, kind of boring without all these children here. Guess I'll get cable.
Yeah, my dad got he moved. Of course, they always choose to move the middle of freaking nowhere, and then they complain that the internet sucks. Like, well, yes, it sucks.
Oh,
Okay,
we
they're
did
not
not
running
know that.
fiber. They're not running fiber 20 miles to this field.
We didn't.
Okay, like,
I mean, we didn't have any internet at my house until I went to college. So I didn't grow up with the internet. I'm old.
we got
So-
internet when I was 11. But we have a plant question. Austin
Oh my
says,
God.
I got valves in a tank starting to melt. They get lots of light. I occasionally use Easy Green, and the fish are messy eaters, so I think they should be getting nutrients. Any idea what may be up? Are they new valves?
Hmm.
Well,
Are
they're
you
fairly new
using?
valves where
Are you
they
using
look happy.
liquid? Are you using liquid CO2 product? That's not good for
That will
valves.
not do
That
well.
is a good point. That's kind of a.
Yeah, like Excel or Easy Carbon. Don't do that. Also, don't do that. Those are poisons. Don't do that. Don't use those.
Oh, you know what I saw in an ad on Facebook yesterday?
An all natural algae thing.
Yeah.
I am skeptical of it until I actually get my hands on it.
I know.
Because
What
other
it's like
things similar to that have floated around Facebook in the years prior. So
I didn't read into it, but it
So
said it uses organic plant waste. Like, wait, how do you?
I scrolled too fast, so I didn't read the whole thing. But yeah,
Mhm.
So Nathan asks, what's the cheapest way to do CO2? And here's the
and
thing. There's
before you start
short-term
on
gain and there's
long term.
long-term
Yeah.
savings.
So what Crown Till is suggesting with the gelatin yeast bicarbonate method, that is in the beginning it's very cheap, but then you're paying so much to do everything, and it's so inconsistent that you'll have
Yep.
algae growth because of the fluctuations in the CO2.
Yeah, it's a
What
great
I
way
would
to
recommend
grow
you
a
do,
tank of algae.
if it's a small tank underneath 29 gallons, buy one or two paintball tanks and just fill both at the same time and swap them out and run that way. Or if it's a bigger
And
tank than that, just buy a
if you
5 pound or a 10 pound, buy a decent regulator, and just spend on
See,
that, save on the lights, as Becky is saying.
exactly. That's the thing, because no matter if you want consistent CO2, you have to have a good regulator. No matter what you have producing the CO2 on that end, you have to have a good regulator, and the regulator is where you're going to spend
that's what
90% of your
costs the
money.
money.
So,
And if you want to do DIY CO2 and you have pets or young children,
No,
and
no,
they
because
knock that
it's not
over,
built
and
as
they knock
yeah.
that bottle of stinking fermented
mm,
goo over, you are not going to be happy. And I can tell you this
It
because I
smells
have done
bad.
DIY CO2 before. I have done the whole yeast and plastic jug business. And
Have you ever left one in the tank after it's done and accidentally opened it because you thought it was something else, and then just
yeah,
the
it's so
it
not
puffs
worth
off
it.
yeah.
And there's yeast scum everywhere, clogging up everything. Just don't do it. I would rather do no CO2 than DIY CO2. And don't get a cheap regulator, or unless you want to kill your fish.
yeah, Alishon, that's the company that did that.
That's the Green Water
Yeah,
Labs. Yep.
Green Water Labs, and they said I think they sold on Boost Plan or something. I think that's what they were pointing to. I didn't look into it, but the only thing I wanted to verify when they were talking about it was it wasn't just another glutaraldehyde product. And
Is
it's
it one of
not.
those little electrolyzers that blasts
It's a
oxygen?
liquid
It's
it's
a
a
squirt
liquid
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a
furt thingy.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, all
Um,
right.
so he's using Easy Green, no Excel. They've been in the tank about 3 to
Good.
4 months.
Hmm.
So they're dying now.
So your water down there is fairly hard, I think.
I was just
Which
gonna ask, has your
Valve
hardness
like,
dropped? If the
yeah,
hardness
Valve
dropped, you probably
like
have something.
Could be,
it's
or
pretty
just
hard water though.
the substrate maybe doesn't have as much nutrients as he thinks, possibly. I
Right.
mean, if I want, valves will take off for me, and then they'll kind of sort of stabilize unless I have aqua soil or root tabs in there,
So
or a
Well,
high amount of
Calisarians
fish
are pretty
waste,
good at
like
taking stuff
mosh
out
pit.
of with their leaves, but you still want something in their roots system.
it gets them
Yeah,
started. Some valves are easier than others too. Italian valves are a little
Is
bit
notoriously picky. Yep.
they're a little fussier than jungle valves.
yeah. Jungle valve takes off for me. Corkscrew valve.
Right. But Italian valves are a little fussier. So, but yeah, you could try some root tabs because I think you have an inert substrate. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
try some root tabs.
And if your leaves are melting but your roots are fine, they'll come back as well. So
Yeah, they'll come back.
and make sure the crown is not so deep in the substrate that can cause issues. Usually when valves propagate, they don't even care if they're in the substrate or not.
They'll
just
come
pop
up on the
up.
top.
Yeah.
Helianthum, Vallisneria, all of
Yeah,
them
and
do
then
that.
they'll be everywhere and you'll never be free of them. But maybe that's what you want. I mean, because some people just want a wall of valves, which is a look,
Tis a look.
it's a look. So Nathan says, so that said, have any of y'all seen Empty Fish Tank CO2 system? It's all the normal stuff, but he mixes the ingredients to produce the CO2 It has a pretty good bottle size. I'd say a 10-pounder. So that's where is
So
that where one
it's
of those deals where you mix citric acid
yes, it's one of
and
those. So it's basically the same thing. It's DIY CO2, but a little bit more professional in that you're using an actual steel or aluminum
yeah.
container to hold the reaction, hold where the reaction is happening.
Mhm.
But in the long term, you're still going to be mixing a whole bunch of citric acid,
Yeah, and you're
yeah,
still
baking
gonna be
soda, and
you're
Yeah, I mean,
still
does
paying for
MD
that
fish tanks
constantly.
do they
acid.
talk about? Does he talk about like how much maintenance is involved in that?
And the
How
thing you
consistent?
have to remember is that MD fish tanks, somebody is paying him to say things. He has sponsors, and this is no shame on him. You know, we all got to make a living, and I think he does some really good work. But people send him equipment. He has corporate sponsors. That doesn't mean it's a good product. I mean, there's a reason you don't see like high-end aquascapers using it
Yeah,
or like
there's just
serious plant growers.
there's
No.
it's too convenient to have just a nice size pressurized, like get it filled at a place and just run that instead of having to mix that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Eric, for the $5 super
Thank
chat.
you.
Thank you,
Lance.
Eric. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, and once you get your regulator, I mean, for me to fill 10 pounds with tax is $19.
It's
Oh, it's
it's
about
$1 a
for
pound
10
wherever
pounder
we
it would
go.
be
Yeah, it varies, but it's not bad.
for a 10
It's
pound
so
here,
much.
it's about $40 for me to do with tax and
It
filling
really
everything.
varies a lot.
Yep.
Now we did discover, well, Brookley discovered there's a pawn shop around here that the only advantage is that they're open on Saturdays.
Oh, that's
They're a
good.
little closer to her, but they charge her like 25-30 bucks to fill her 5 versus driving on the other side of town where I go, Louisiana Fire Extinguisher. It's a $10 minimum, so you would want to at least bring 2 5-pounders or a 10-pounder. Otherwise, he charges you $10 to refill a 5.
Mm.
But it's pretty freaking cheap.
We had a fire extinguisher supply here as well, but that closed down like 2015-ish. So they also had the dollar per gallon, not gallon, dollar per pound deal. They didn't have a minimum though, so if you brought in a 5, it would be $5 for
Yeah.
swapping. They
I go
wouldn't
to
fill it for you though; they just swap it. So
Oh, see, my place doesn't swap, which I appreciate. And they fill it fast. Like it takes 5 minutes. And it's 2 blocks from my house. So
see,
even
Kelly's
if
lucky. Basically,
I
she's
know.
Kelly is saying she is lucky.
So it's
She
like
has a
even if
pawn store near her.
I know. So it's like even though there's probably other places in Fort Wayne where I could go where I'd maybe save a little money, this is too convenient. And they know me my name now. I mean, they're like, oh, it's the aquarium girl. She's back.
Yep, she's the only one here who's not buying this stuff for kegurators or soda machines or stuff like that.
Apparently, they have one other aquarium person, and I
Well,
want
now
to
you
know
need to
this
be friends with that
person.
person now.
Well,
You
I
need to
wonder if they
introduce
want
them.
it for their. They could want it for their calc reactor for salt water.
Oh, salt water, yeah.
So I don't
Well, if they're
know.
freshwater, if they're a sane person and they use fresh water, then be friends with them.
I
If they're a
know. I
saltwater
mean,
person, try to bring them over to our side. Otherwise, break contact.
random person. If you're out there and you're watching this, I'm in Fort Wayne. Like, hit me up. We could be friends. We could be friends. So yeah.
Yeah, Matt, thank you, Matt. He's pushing hard to get people to go to aquatics.com and buy merch like the towel.
Let's take a look at this towel. So
It's very
pretty.
towely.
Very soft.
It's a whole lot of fish.
I mean, you could wear it as a headdress.
Interesting.
Guard. I mean, it's a look. Look. Don't look in my cabinet. It's not that nice. It's not that clean. Right. Don't look.
My fish cabinets are empty because Brookley says I can't have stuff in cabinets because I won't know it's there. And she's right. So everything is in clear bins. The cabinets will end up being for like long-term storage of stuff that I don't care.
Kelly, that's not a mess, Kelly.
I guess it's not that bad. I only put like backups of fish food in there. Like I have some extras and
So I've heard a lot of people say positive things about that F-zone CO2 generator, like the pressurized container and the F-zone regulator. And I wouldn't use one on anything over 20 gallons. Like for a nano tank, I would not mind trying it. It's definitely the next best thing to pressure out, like
Yes.
to the regular CO2 normal way of doing it, I guess.
I mean, I just won't use anything made by F-Zone. I've just seen too many people posting like, "Oh, I lost all my rainbows because my regulator broke."
No rainbows are at risk from F-zone failures anymore.
Don't put it on a tank that's like your precious
Precious.
rainbows.
Yeah, put it on something that's just a plant grow out or has some fish that you wouldn't mind. Well, you should
Put it
obviously
on
mind.
your puppies if you're Myrtle.
Yeah. Well, my most expensive regulator is on the puffer tank in the plant farm. And thank you, Austin. A tip for the words of wisdom.
Austin.
We'll try root tabs.
Thank you, Austin. And everybody go see his stream after this. So, CO2 in your pond. Well, here's the thing.
You don't necessarily need it because nothing in your pond needs that CO2. Everything's going to be growing mostly up top where they have atmospheric CO2.
All the CO2 it needs.
Nothing's, And with such a large surface area, there's all the CO2 you're injecting is probably going to be in one concentrated area. And it's not going to be beneficial. So there's no need really.
I do not want to have a regulator outside on 100-degree day. That's
those solenoids get hot.
Yeah, that's not safe. But
and the daily contraction of the metal from the temperatures, you're just going to be leaking CO2 from the.
I mean, if anything, I think it's more important to get more oxygenation in your water on hot days for fish. I mean, getting a little bit of water movement, some bubbling. I think that's much more important. I do not want my plants or my pond to be any more productive for biomass.
What if you want a Monte Carlo carpet in your pond?
I mean, I have seen that done because when I was on the West Coast, there was a puddle of not a puddle. It was a nice sized pond. It was very shallow though. There was some carpeting plant that looked very similar to Monte Carlo, and it was next to an aquarium store. So I think it was either Monte Carlo or something similar, Dwarf Baby Tears or something. It was carpeting the bottom of it. It was just
pretty cool
ditch in the hole in the ground that looked like a pond. So,
I mean, it's pretty cool. It would have to be a pretty shallow pond because Monte Carlo.
It was very shallow and it was direct sun, so nothing above. It was just that carpeting plant, which I'm still not sure what it was.
I mean, it's probably going to be hard to do, but you could try. I mean, someone did it once. Yeah, hit the like button, people.
They didn't. I should specify. They didn't do it intentionally. It was just a pond that happened to be outside because there was a ditch in a divot in the ground and water collected up there. So
I got one of those, QC.
The substrate you see in this thing is slowly turning into that.
It's freaking ugly, man.
Oh God! Well,
and it takes calcium away from your better looking snails.
and I like to film my tanks at night because one, that's when there's no potential for glare anywhere. Right. It's convenient, and secondly,
the house is quiet.
The house is quiet, and also I have time. Like it's after Jenna goes to bed, it's just me. So it's very annoying when you have a bunch of MTSs. You have to turn on the light and then basically wait like an hour or two, come back.
Or sometimes you just take a mag flow scraper, wipe out the front glass, and then use tongs and just beat all the plants until the snails fall off. And so that's what I do, basically. I just shake all the plants until the snails start falling off, or wipe them, just scrape the glass down.
I keep my lights. My lights are on from 1 to 11. But Jenna would not get to enjoy the tanks, so that's why.
Exactly. So I have to have like a long ramp up.
Yeah.
So let's get back to ponds. In fact, Benjamin Peters has another pond question. Is it acceptable to use submerged pots to plant in ponds? That is what we are going to be talking about.
We are going to talk about it today, and I brought visual aids.
I bought a tub. I don't have the tub at home yet, and
What's
And in
the
fact,
sound?
it's still at it is still at Tractor Supply. However, now that Jenna's home with the van, and Berkeley has her vehicle back, like I don't have to just settle for a 100-gallon pond. I have the receipt. They still have the pond. It'd be very easy for me to go there and just say, "Hey, can you upgrade me to the 110?" Or there's a 150. I'll have to measure the
So yeah, let me
dimensions of.
know the surface area because you might be able to do 2 water lilies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look that up on Tractor
For
Supply
the
right now.
100, you can do 1.
It's a 100 gallons, a 53-inch by 20 something inch wide.
Just 1 then, just 1, because these are bigger. So yeah, well, that's exciting.
And so
It's a good start. You're gonna have a good time with that.
yeah, so you're gonna send me lilies. I need to figure
Yeah.
out what else do I want to
Yeah.
put in there, and how am I going to hold it in there? Like, should I get some of those
Yeah.
apothecary thingies or something cheaper
Yeah,
than
those on
that?
the
Well,
side of
so
the.
that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I left some of them outside. The apothecary is kind of a very expensive and too small option, so I wouldn't use that.
Okay.
So let's talk about what you need to plant where, first of all. So let's start with water lilies. So water lilies need to sink to the bottom of your pond. It's nice to start them up elevated a little bit first. So you could use like a milk crate that's turned upside down in the pond, or a brick, or a laundry basket, just to elevate them. And just for, to get them sprouting, get a few leaves out. And then you want to sink them to the bottom. Now, if you're like Foxanne and you have a giant pond, okay, you don't want to sink them down like 20 feet, because like you're gonna have to get them back out again. And
Yeah.
maybe Brian doesn't want to go swimming. So but you want to sink them down in a tub pond, like as low as they go in the center. At least 2 feet is good. So you want to use containers with no holes. So I've been using these for my ponds. You can also use a
Okay, so
standard
very
water
wide.
lily.
I was thinking bucket, like
You can a
Oh.
bucket works well too. I just like these because they fit in my pond
If
really
you
well.
have a
They also
bucket,
work.
it won't be as far close to the ground as you would like it to be.
Yeah, I like these because they're shallow. They also work really great for lotuses. That's why I have a bunch of them. They're feed pans. You can get them at Tractor Supply. You can get them at Rural King, but you can also get them on Amazon. They're made, the ones I get are made by a company called Little Giant. But a paint bucket is cheaper, and a paint bucket works well too. You could also use any bucket that you have around the house. Will work also. Okay, 150. Yeah, 1 water lily for that.
for a 150. Okay, yeah, where's the
Yeah, 1 water lily.
58 inches long, 39 inches tall, 24 inches wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So 1 water lily, because these are kind of bigger ones. So yeah, I like these feed pans for my ponds. They work well, but also a Home Depot paint bucket, not a 5-gallon bucket. That's too big. Like a 2.5-gallon bucket. You could also just use a bucket you have, as long as it's clean, plastic, no holes. That's what you want.
So no holes. Yeah, Clegg's Nursery has those. Yeah, Berkeley wanted to go to. Well, we wanted to do that on Saturday, but it was raining. We ran into Tractor Supply, very confident that pond would fit in the car, but that's because I measured the interior of the car and did not measure the opening with the door that doesn't like swing open at 180 degrees like most car doors don't. So and I didn't have the tools to just take the door off. So yeah, after a couple of embarrassing minutes of trying to shove it in the car, we took the walk of shame back into.
Well, you're not the first person who's made that walk. So yeah.
Oh yeah, they had a very, very well set routine for holding stuff for people, and so I'm sure that happens a lot.
Yeah. So But anyways, this is the smaller size of them. I use these for little water lilies. I use these for little bowl lotuses because lotus also needs to be in a container with no holes. The other important thing about lotus, the container must be round or oval. And the reason for that is when you plant the tuber of lotus, what happens is it makes tubers that kind of run around the corner or run around the circle.
Do you plant the tuber in the center or on the edge?
The edge,
The edge.
edge, and it runs around and it makes more tubers. And if you plant it in a square container, it'll get caught in the corners and it'll harm it. So you have to use round or oval for lotuses. So this is the size I would use for a small micro lotus. For my bigger lotuses, I'd use the other one. So let's talk about how I plant a water lily. So hardy water, there's a couple different kinds of water lilies. There's hardy water lilies, which is the kind that I've sent to people. It's mostly what I've grown.
Is that what you're sending me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're the kind that are hardy from zone 2 to zone 10. So that is anywhere in the continental United States. They're hardy. So like Alaska, okay, maybe it won't make it there, but even northern Minnesota, they're hardy. And they're a tuber. And when you buy one from a nursery or you get one from KGE or you get a cutting from me, usually it's a piece of a tuber with some shoots. Like you'll see some spirally eyes, some like little kind of roots.
Yep. KG's got
getting a bunch of pond stuff. Yeah, I actually just took a look at your website the other day. Lots of cool stuff on there. Anyways, so substrate. We'll start with that first. So for ponds, good news is everything I use is cheap and easy to find. We're not using aqua soils. We're not using anything that costs a bunch of money. Everything is cheap.
Right.
Yep. Now, for your water lilies and your lotuses, if you are a person who lives someplace that has heavy clay soil, you can just use the dirt from your yard. That's it. Well, you don't have to mix anything.
Just dig a little bit of a layer off and then get to the bottom layers of the dirt. You know, on the very top.
Where it's like all that clay stuff.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to take too much off the top to get to clay.
Yeah. And a lot of people live like Oklahoma. They've got heavy clay. Lots of people live in places with heavy clay. So you can use that. Now, if you need to mix a substrate like I do, what I use is dirt cheap topsoil. So not like Miracle Grow, not fancy stuff that has the little white balls in it, the perlite. You don't want to use that because that will all float away and that's going to drive you insane. And what I do is I use 1 part of that mixed with 4 parts of either builder's sand or unscented, non-clumping kitty litter.
So mostly sand then?
Mostly. You don't want a ton of, because it's got to be really heavy.
Yeah.
Got to be really heavy. And I usually use builder's sand. You can also use Safety's Orb. Can't find it in the city of Fort Wayne because apparently every time it comes into stock, one company comes and buys it and all of it.
Interesting.
So I can't get it. So you could use Safety's Orb. You can use the cheapest unscented non-clumping kitty litter, or you can use sand. Yeah, I will use a dirted pond, but not a dirted tank because
they're very different systems.
Yeah, they're very different. And 100% of my water column is blocked from the light. So I don't worry about algae. Whereas
so what's the point of having substrate in the bottom at all? Just, everything that, just put them in pots. Anything that you want to grow out of the pots, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't put any substrate in my ponds because I have to break them down every year. I live in a wintry climate. My ponds have to be winterized every year. Plus, I need to divide water lilies. And if you have an in-ground pond, you're not going to want to plant things directly in there because they can get invasive.
Yep, and then trying to sort.
You don't want to do that.
You're splitting it, you're just going to be tearing stuff up that you don't want to tear up.
Yeah.
Geek says, can you order Safety's Orb? It's in bulk. Usually it's in like
and I don't need that.
You don't want to use that much.
Yeah, and apparently my Tractor Supply is having trouble getting it. They can only get it every couple months. So Alishon says going to Ted's club meeting on Friday should be lots of lilies, lotus, marginals. He also brought 250 water hyacinths that he sterilizes with goat dewormer. He sells at cost.
I've never heard
That
that.
Ted, I would totally go to that meeting, but it's kind of far.
Now I
from
want to
me.
see that water hyacinth that you sterilized. That would be interesting to see how it stays,
I just
like it
chuck
stays
I
stable,
don't
but
even
not.
sterilize mine. I just chuck it in.
That's what I do. I mean, yeah.
Chuck it
I can go pick up Safety's Orb. I can go pick up 42 bags of it on aisle 20 at Tractor Supply.
Yeah, so you can try it. But I have been using sand for many years with success, so I can say it does work. So how you plant them? You want to see?
So let me ask about the height. You said they need, when they're new, they need to be elevated in the
They
pond
don't
first.
need to, but they're going to start a little faster because it's warmer.
So how much? Because so it's a 39-inch tub that I'll probably end up getting if I get the 150.
Just prop them up on a brick, prop them up on a laundry basket that's overturned, just something. Just raise it up a bit.
Okay, like this is not like a specific amount, just higher, more light. Okay.
And if you don't, it'll still get there. It's just not as fast. It'll get there a little faster. That's really important for me because it's cold here. So things are moving slow.
And now what should I do for filtration, if anything, or just move
Nothing.
the water? So
I'll
probably do a powered pond pump. Just
I like to use a little bit of water movement in my ponds because I think that it helps regulate the temperature. I think it's pleasant. I like the bubbling. I have a little frog fountain that I think is really cute.
what about
But
those
you don't have to.
center
You don't have to
fountains,
do anything.
like the bird feeder type of fountains where they come out the sides? And
The danger with that is if you have a windy day, it's going to blow and it's going to drain your pond. So I don't want it to go that high. And the other thing is water lilies don't like a ton of splashing. So I like a really
They want their
gentle.
leaves to be dry.
so something more like a power head in the water column might be better.
Yep.
A pond pump, like all you need to do is you don't put a jet on top of it. Like just use the pump and it'll just bubble.
Oh, just let it come out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
let it bubble. And just a little bit of it,
Gotcha.
I think, is really nice. So back to how we plant these. So water lilies are very heavy feeders, and you want to feed them from the start. So this year I got some Landon aquatic fertilizer, which is a pond fertilizer that Ted Coletti recommends in his book. I'm going to try it. Other years I've just used like 5 pond tabs to start a water lily. And what I do is I add a little bit of my substrate at the bottom, like 1 layer, and then I add a little more and I add distributed kind of all around, either a big handful of a half a cup of the Landon fertilizer or like 5 root tabs. And then I add more of the substrate. Then I put my my tuber piece down, and you want to plant it because it's going to grow in a straight line. And you want to plant it in such a way that the growth tip, like I plant it on the edge and I point it so the growth tip is pointing with lots of room to grow.
Towards the center?
Yeah, toward the center. It's actually going to grow all the way across. So when I divided these, like each tuber was like a big, long, skinny piece. Well, not even skinny, like pretty big. I mean, the tubers were. And I just sliced them up. So, and that's it. And then I add the rest of the substrate, and then I want to frost it because it's like a cake with a layer of pea gravel, just cheap, plain pea gravel. And that's going to help keep all that dirt in place.
Yeah.
You could also use, if you have any leftover aquarium gravel you don't like.
Color gravel.
You could.
Got some clown
I
puke
mean,
somewhere.
in a
I think.
pond, it works because the lily pads are going to cover it all, so you won't see the clown puke
you could just
until
use
it's
what you
winter time.
have.
And then,
You could probably also use a plain layer of Safety's Orb would be fine, though that's kind of lighter weight. I like to use the heavier weight gravel to keep everything in place. Now, planting
so you definitely don't want to
lotus,
top it with oxide.
yeah. So I've used those Thrive brand ones. Those work really well.
I just like that this is called muck off. Sludge
You
reducer.
know, the funny thing about the pond hobby is there's a lot of snake oil products.
Well, that's
Like they're
same with
not
the
That's a
aquarium
fish
hobby
hobby
too.
too. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
there's
but
snake oil in every hobby.
Those crystal clear Thrive tablets, they work good. The Pond Tabs brand ones work good. And now I'm using the Landon fertilizer. That's a good one. But water lilies are very heavy feeders. I feed them like every other week during the year. You don't have to do anything else though. Once they start kind of getting going, you can just lower them in, drop them to the bottom, and done. And
Cool.
then we'll talk about winterizing your pond another time. Right now, we're summarizing our ponds.
Someone asked about winterizing your bog filter. Do you do anything in particular though? Just like quick.
Yeah, I turn it off. I take plants out of it
Okay.
because it dries out completely.
Mhm.
And I can't keep it running because if it freezes and it builds up ice dams, it'll drain the pond. So I can't keep it running.
Now I got distracted by this. Is this a thing?
Oh,
Is this for
so
real?
Oh yeah, well
Yeah.
yeah, people die there. Haven't you been? We've never been to a golf course. I mean, they dye their ponds.
Not the one. I go to publicly funded golf courses that charge a very small green fee. It's not the
Wow.
most well kept golf course.
Yeah, there are some.
I'm not skilled enough for the fancy ones.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who want nothing growing or living in their ponds,
Yeah.
and so they put a lot of junk in them. So Keith says, and he points this out, pea gravel at Lowe's is less than $10 for 50 pounds. Yeah, that's why I use it. It's dirt cheap. Builder sand, dirt cheap. Cheap topsoil. Everything is cheap. I don't use any filtration. I just use water movement. My ponds are extremely lightly stocked. There's tons of plants growing. It doesn't matter. So I just like a little bit of water movement. It helps regulate the temperature and it's pleasant. Like it's a nice bubbling sound. I like
Okay.
it.
So then lilies in the pots in the water. So now what if I want something like creeping Jenny to come out the sides or just other stuff?
So if your pond has integrated shelves, you can put your marginals on a shelf. These are baskets.
No shell. Well, I mean,
Right.
nothing that comes
So we'll
with
get
it.
to that. So let's talk about the vessels. So this one is from Lowe's. It's square shaped. These are very cheap. Lowe's has them. I swear they're like $1.50 each.
I have a couple of those
really,
already because I was
yeah,
gonna make Dean's fry trap with them.
I really like, even if you don't end up using these in a pond, I like them because they're great for washing gravel and you can turn them upside down and you can elevate things on them so that they're really useful for that. They don't fit particularly well in a round pond though because they're square shaped. You can also get round ones. Those work well. And if they're not like a heavy flowering plant, I plant those just in straight gravel. So what I do is I take the pot and I wash most of the soil away and I put them in, I plant them directly in gravel.
Just
But
in
if they're a heavy flower, like a canna, and I want them to flower a lot, I pot them just like I do my water lilies.
yeah, I want to.
You just don't want to have the potting soil exposed to the holes of the pot. So
Right.
you want to put a liner or something in there so that
Right.
it doesn't leach out.
Yeah, and that's why I pot my cannas because I want them to feed heavy or like any other things.
Yeah,
I pot them just like I do my water lilies. Lotus, I pot like my water lilies, but they're a little fussier. And I'm not giving anybody any lotus this year, so I'm not going to talk about it. If you want to know how to pot a lotus, hit me up on Discord and I'll teach you how to do it. It's a little trickier.
so how would I put like a shelf in there then?
So, a couple things you can do. You can use upturned milk crates, laundry baskets. You can use bricks, concrete bricks, or the blocks, the concrete blocks. They're going to change your water chemistry a little bit, but I don't care. Medaka, do not care. They're fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll.
So I do
pH
that.
will go up a little bit.
Other things that you can do, I've bought these little wire, and I've left them outside. I should have brought them to show you, but I have these little wire deck hangers for like hanging, potted plants off your deck, and you can this thing fits perfectly right inside it, and they're not that expensive. Another thing, I'm going to try this year. I just ordered it and it'll get here Wednesday, so I'll show you when it comes. They're little hanging fabric planters. So, because I want water to flow in and out of it, so fabric pots work really well. And these are hanging ones. They're meant to like hang over a deck, and they have like 4 big pockets. And so I can hang them with S-hooks off the sides of my pond. And by the way, I do this on the outside too, because I like to plant flowers on the outside of my pond too, because it's pretty. And you can fill the pockets with gravel that way. And things.
But on the outside, then don't you have to water them and stuff?
Yeah.
On the outside.
Yeah, but that's what Kelly does inside.
Yeah, it's what I do.
That's why she needs room to walk around all the ponds to water them. Otherwise, she could cram everything in one.
I mean, why have a pond unless you're going to enjoy it? And
I want everything in the water.
Well, you don't have to do that then, but you can have those things hanging on the inside. You can also hang them on the outside. So, and I just got those off Amazon. And
is that what you sent to? You texted me the other day.
Yeah, I texted you those.
Yeah,
and they're coming Wednesday, so we'll see if I like them or not. I don't know, but there's lots of products like that. So you have to be a little creative because they don't have integrated shelves, the stock tubs, which is why Ted Coletti doesn't like them. But like, I don't like black plastic tubs. I like the galvanized metal ones. So I have to deal with that. And I really like that they have the straight sides, because then I can hang pots off of them and they look really good. So I can have like a big flower island. So Coralworks says, Kelly, you mentioned surface area limits for lilies, but what about lotuses? How many lotus can Steven have in his pond?
0 this year.
It depends on the lotus size. So there are micro lotuses that only need that much space. And then there are lotuses that need about a kiddie pool. So it really varies. Lotuses they're trickier in general. And they're much more expensive. So this year, I will have 5 different lotuses. So, and I have one that's a bigger one, and the rest of mine are all the micro sized. So, yeah. But Rachel O'Leary has carnivorous bog gardens, and those are very cool. I have tried to grow those on my pond before. The problem is they need incredibly low pH, low GH water. Super soft, like rainwater,
like,
which
it's almost acidic. Like acidic is better than
and I don't have
that's going to be the majority of what's going to be in my pond is rainwater.
You say that, but you do have to.
But it's still not going to be enough. Yeah.
You have to top your pond off.
You seen what I got going on out there with that green water? I have not put water in there.
You don't have a fountain in it. If you have any kind of bubbling, you're going to have evaporation. So
at least it's next to the water hose. So
yeah. So I mean, it's just part of having a pond is sometimes you do have to top it off. And in my case, I don't, my water has some KH and GH. So I have tried a carnivorous pitcher plant, and it did not work well. But they're really cool. So yeah, Coralworks says low nitrate. Yeah, and just in general, like TDS under 100.
Let me bookmark this
very,
video.
very low TDS water.
Jenna just posted because it's KJE's video about he attached baskets to ponds.
Yeah, so you can also drill and you could zip tie them, which is what Rachel O'Leary does. But I have metal ponds, so I don't do that. So I use these hooks, and they work really, really well. Yeah, don't get the apothecary because those are expensive and they're super small.
Yeah.
You're going to want
they're
something.
More meant for inside your fish tank for like one small plant.
Yeah, you're going to want something a lot bigger. Like even the little hooks I have, this is what they fit. It's not super big. That's why I got this fabric pocket planter that has like 10-inch big pockets that are also kind of deep. so it has more room for roots.
Okay, yeah, I see what he did. That's simple enough. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
just the
that's a
very top.
thing. Yeah, that's a thing you can do. But I have a metal pond, so I don't do that. But yeah, so you just have to be a little more creative, but it's not that big of a deal. So, and it's nice to have some plants that spill over the side, and it's nice to have some plants that grow nice and big and tall, and then it's nice to have at least one big, like having one big water lily.
Yeah, I definitely want the stuff on the side, like because I mean I've got unlimited bacopa I could just put in there too.
Yeah, but Copa does really well. It does really well, and I'm just a little bored with it because the flowers aren't that exciting.
Well, I'm just getting started, so I'll be going through the
Yeah,
collect them all phase.
that's
You know
why
what
that's
would be
why I
really
do my
nice
stuff growing on the outside. They're much more exciting.
as
What
an
would be really
aquarium
nice?
plant? Pogostemon erectus.
That's
If you have
a
a
good
humid enough
one.
environment, it has
Yes. So
beautiful colors.
yeah, Jay is gonna send Jay, Nano Aquarium guy is gonna send me some of that because I
Oh,
do want to
nice.
try that plant
I
because
bought a
that is
pot of
one of
it from Garden of Eater at Aquafest, and
you should
I
grow
still in the
that.
pot.
You should
It's
grow that.
it's doing really well too. Like it's I have it in the plant farm, and it's like nice, turning nice red color at the top and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's one of only 2 aquarium plants I care about at all in a pond. That and Lobelia cardinalis. Looks
Should I put some of that mini in there?
the mini doesn't really
Mini
flower
won't
that
do much.
well.
Yeah, it takes so much effort to
You
flower it.
should just
I was pulling hair when I was pulling hair out of my head when I tried to flower that plant. So
you
Well,
should
shit.
just either order
get
one
the
from
normal one.
KJ,
Yeah.
either order one from KJE or order one from a pawn shop or just get one from a local garden center because they're native. And you want the bigger ones that grow like because they'll grow like 4 feet tall. And they
And
have
we have
beautiful
a
red
new name in
flowers.
chat, so I just wanted to say hi to Jay's Aquatics, new to the
Hi.
channel.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello,
Welcome.
welcome. We're glad you're here. So, Kate, Jenna says, how do Kelly and Stephen feel about African sunset canna for our pond? I have grown many, many cannas. Not all of them have done well. And if you're buying just regular garden center cannas, you kind of roll the dice. Some of them, the ones that do well, do so well, and they bloom and bloom and bloom, and they're really, really beautiful. But then some of them just don't do as well because they're not pond cultivars. There are cannas that are specifically water cannas. I ordered some of them this year. My garden center has some pond cannas in stock that I've used, and those have done well. I would say, like, if you're just going to buy a random garden center canna, I would say like 80% of them work really well, and 20% of them are duds. And I don't know which one are which. So probably they'd be okay, but you know,
I'll take that gamble.
take the gamble. Why
I don't
not?
even know what it looks like, but if Jenna has looked it up and saw that she liked it, then we might as well give it a shot.
I mean, you can also just buy a canna that are for ponds if you want to be sure.
Oh, so okay, KJE is getting some in, so
Yeah.
that's probably the right kind to get.
Yeah, definitely. And they grow really, really well in ponds. And for you, they'll just keep going and going and going because you don't have frosts as much as we do.
Just a couple of
So,
days of it,
yeah.
and it's catastrophic when it happens.
Yeah. And I grow cannas every year. I really like them because they bloom consistently. So I think they're good. So Zoltan's Aquatics says, what type of floaters do best outside? All of them do well.
All
I
of
would
them.
never grow duckweed because that's a recipe for madness.
Red root floaters look the best outside. Everything turns
They do.
purple and they
Pretty.
flower, and it's just amazing.
I really like water hyacinth. Where I live, it is legal because I live in a place that has hard frosts. Where Steven lives, it's very invasive.
Yeah.
Water lettuce, legal where I live because we have hard frost. So I usually get some of that. Let's see.
Frogbit, if
use a
you're
ton
gonna
of
maintain it well enough, frogbit can be nice in a pond.
I don't
You just
use
have
a
to keep it under
ton of
control.
I don't use a ton of floaters because eventually my water lilies get so big that they crowd out the floaters, and I don't care about the floaters. Like, I care about my water lilies. They are the stars of the pond.
Yeah, I figure they're going to end up taking up all the surface area, right?
For sure.
And
They'll
just
cover
something small.
100% of it.
Yeah.
100%. And you know, they're the best thing about pond season, though. They're so easy. They bloom all the time. They're beautiful. I mean, they're the best part of pond. So pickerel weed was mentioned, blue iris, cattails. Those are good marginal plants that you can choose. I've done some of those in the past. I'm doing some of those this year. I do different things every year. So, but consistently, I always do water lilies. I always do lotus. Lotuses are harder to grow. They're much trickier.
Mosaic really is beautiful, but man, is it fussy.
It's hard to find. It does way better in a pond.
Yeah, I
But
got some.
You will,
like
yeah, you will
5,000.
do much
I got
better in a
some
pond outside than the fish
from
tank.
Grant and Shelby, and they did really well. But then, like, because I had the stem rooted, once the stem got uprooted, it just disappeared on me.
Yeah. This year I'm
It
growing
wants
up.
an anchor so that it stays still in the up top. It
Yes.
doesn't move around too much. Mosaic plant likes calmer, chiller
Still
water.
water. So yeah. And you're not gonna have room for it with the water lily.
Yeah.
You're
It's
gonna have to get
definitely
another
such a
pond.
delicate plant that
Mhm.
the water
Yeah.
lilies are just gonna, lily pads are just gonna squeeze the thing out.
All right, now you got to tell me what fish I'm doing in there. I can't make up my damn mind.
You could do a rad.
Medaka rice fish.
You could do a
rad, that's
medaka.
interesting.
I'm doing I'm doing my platinum yuki again. I have my goldfish in one pond, which maybe Annette will send me another goldfish. I don't know. And
She's got one.
she
She's got one.
does. Well,
She
I don't
got
know if she's ready to part company with it.
No.
Nancy B is gonna send me some shiners, so I'm gonna do
We
some
can do
rainbow
rainbow
shiners in a
It might get a
tub.
little too warm.
Pretty.
So rads, do you think they would do okay year round?
Well, yeah, they're very hardy. They're
What
very.
about a melanitania though? Because I like you said, put a mop in there with green water. That would be fun. I just want to make sure
You
that
don't
I'm
even
not.
need to have green water in there. There will be enough for the babies to eat. You're gonna have to take them out at some point though, because it will be too cold. They don't want to be in 50-degree water.
Yeah, I would prefer to start off with something that could just be year round, so
Rads
I don't have to
can-
panic about it.
Rads for you can almost, I think, make it year round. You might have to drop a heater in. You're gonna have to drop a heater on days it frosts.
Yeah, and then that's the other question: what capacity of heater do I need in there for that time?
Just a small.
Just a small. All you need is
the
a hole in
smaller
the
one.
ice. You may not even need that because if you have like an air stone in there, it'll keep ice from forming. For me, I only need heaters in my big pond when it's below 17 degrees.
So yeah, small as in 150 watts.
Yeah.
Smaller, yeah. I would go with 100 watt.
It just needs enough for a hole in the ice. It doesn't even need to get that warm.
Gotcha.
Like 50 degrees.
Yeah, water does freeze a
So
couple
I don't use
times
a
a year,
fish
Geek.
heater. I use a stock tank heater.
Oh.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't think you're going to need a heater. Because if you have an air stone in there, which is cheaper to run than a heater, it's not going to ice up.
Air stone or
your
pond
house
pump or both.
You could probably run your pump year round.
No, but like, do I do both or air stone and a pump and a pond pump?
Up to you. Oh, I don't run an air stone during the year. I mean, during the growing season, I don't, but I do run an air stone during the winter because it helps keep the ice from forming.
Them gold white cloud mountain minnows are tempting too.
Yeah, those are good. Those are a good, easy fish.
Medaka
are good. Shiners are good. Rads are
Daisy
good.
blue rice fish are good. Like people
Oh
focus
yeah,
on the Madaka, but daisy blues are also pretty nice.
I think you could maybe keep those year. Well,
If you
again,
get a good line, I, I'm a little colder than Steven is, and mine have
yours did okay.
overwintered in the little
Yeah.
17-gallon thing that he had.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can here.
Oh, it's too cold for you down there, yeah, where
Too
you are.
cold for here. But
Mhm.
you could maybe. So, and you could put more than one type of a fish in a pond.
Mhm.
I mean, you could put like a rad and you could put a shiner.
And just for the fun of it, like Geek Boy suggested, you can put a couple plecos down there, just see what they end up doing over during the summer season. Just have
Yeah, he
them
didn't say a couple of
breed up a
plecos.
couple.
He just said all
He said only
plecos.
plecos, I know, but I
I
decided to
mean, but
change it so
then,
that
like,
it's,
if they have 1,000 pleco babies, you can send them
which is
all.
why it's a couple plecos instead of all plecos.
I don't even want to tempt fate and make more pleco babies
I
unless
wouldn't.
Because
And
of
the
how
thing
hard
is,
it was
they're
for
gonna
you to
like
get rid of.
their bond.
if
They're
someone
not.
wants to gift me a very expensive pleco that would do fine in the tub outside, and if it makes babies, then that
I
would
don't
be
think I
better.
would trust my expensive plecos outside.
Because
No,
expensive
Because, like,
plecos, you don't want stuff to get eaten, like
you don't want
raccoons
to put
and
any
birds.
expensive fish because, like, there's herons, there's egrets, there's raccoons, like cats. You
man, to
want to
get to a
put.
pleco, they'd have to really dunk their head down in there, which I guess they're fine doing.
They'll do it. They'll
They'll
find
do it.
out.
I know an
I'm
egret
pretty
will.
sure. I mean, I would not put any expensive fish out there, but I've had the same 4 goldfish now for like 6 years.
Cool.
I know they just keep going, and there's room for Annette's goldfish if she wants it to live with me. It's up to her.
I think it's up to her children because
Well,
I think
that's
I think
they're
that
attached.
Annette's ready to part with the goldfish. It's either Liam or Levi. One of the two don't want the goldfish to go, or maybe
Yeah.
both.
I mean, I would
Annette asked.
never take a fish from a kid. I mean, if her kids love that fish,
Yeah, and it'll be fine. I'm gonna send her guppies, and the goldfish will be like will eat well, but it won't eat all the guppies. It won't
Mhm.
be able to.
yeah.
No, so it's Levi.
Guppies outside,
I really am leaning towards
they're
gold white
nice.
clouds, even put something else in there, but the gold white clouds are just they
They're
look
nice.
like
Especially
they're
if
the
you
thing.
have a good amount, like if when the sun sets, it's over the pond, then the gold really shines out
Yeah,
more
and there's
than like
long
regular
fin
parts
ones.
of the day.
There's
Yeah, long
long
fins.
fin ones. Those are nice.
Yeah,
So
the gold ones for sure because of their bright colors versus the regular ones. Just because it's a black tub, so I'm gonna need to be able to see. I want to see my damn fish from the top at least.
yeah, that's
So
why I
definitely
really
no
love
black
the.
Madakas.
The thing is, this Stephen, you say you want to see your fish, but within a month you will not, because they
Because
will
of
be
the plant.
100% covered with the water lily, which is good because it'll keep them cool.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, and that's good. It keeps it algae free. It keeps it cool. So I forget I
It
have.
also induces breeding because they feel safe because they're not constantly being scared by shadows. And the thing with that is when you do see a fish once in a while, when like in the little tiny gaps that there are, you feel more satisfied that the fish are still there.
You're like,
So
oh,
it's
look at that,
yep.
a baby.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of like the Gambusia because of that water, the green water is so opaquely green now.
there won't be any green water in your pond because the water lily is going to cover it.
I might keep that bin of green water
Just see
with
how long
the
it lasts. Yeah,
Gambusia.
just keep
Yeah.
it running. See
I
when it
mean,
finally decides
you
to kick
know,
itself.
you did write a book on the muck tub handbook. I mean,
According to Ted, yep.
did we show you that, Myrtle?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I would love to see.
Real quick before
Yeah,
Austin
show
goes.
it. So Ted Coletti sent Stephen and I this. He made for him.
Yeah, it's got Steven's new book.
Yeah, so CoralWorks mentioned plant cover also reduces evaporation,
Yes.
which is very true, but the fountain kind of brings it back in.
Mm-hmm.
Someday you will get a pond. Someday you will have a yard. Someday.
Ooh.
So,
You can't see it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. The Muck Tub Handbook. He just screenshotted out the picture that I shared on stream.
My favorite
I
part
kind
of
of
it
want to
is
see
the
this turn into a
corner.
full-fledged book now.
I love how it says no revision necessary.
And not very many pages necessary either. It's like flip a bin right side up, let it rain, go to ditch, get critters from ditch, put those in there, and then just walk away. And then that's
And with
it.
how few words it is, you can structure this into a Dr. Seuss like book and find rhymes and all, and just make it poetic.
Yep.
So Alishan mentions albino paradise fish are great. You can see them as they're mostly top dwellers. I've heard of those. I've heard because they're in anabantoids, so they're a good. They can take some hotter temperatures. But Geek Boy doesn't feel satisfied if he doesn't see his fish only once in a while. I mean, that's why he has that pleco, because he sees it all the time.
All right. So Austin just went live. It's going to be May.
All right. Well, everyone, I think we kind of covered ponds for the day, but maybe we'll talk more. Who can say?
Indeed.
Next week we are talking ponds because we have a surprise secret guest.
Oh, are we keeping it a secret?
I don't know.
Yes.
Are we?
I guess we are.
Sure, let's keep it a secret.
Let's keep it a secret.
Until I post the thumbnail.
Then you'll know.
That'll be
You're
next
just going to
Sunday.
have to wait for our surprise secret guest. So,
Okie dokie.
yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, super chatters. Thank you to our fabulous mods. Thank you, everyone who chatted. Thank you, lurkers. Thank you, replay crew. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And we'll see you all next week.
Indeed. Bye-bye.